Hello and thank you for accessing this on-demand recording NCFE and DIQ have produced to explore the concept and benefits of holistic assessment. As we go through the session, please evaluate how you could apply the content to your own curriculum and assessment planning. Our advice would be to consider how you could plan in holistic assessment activities into your schemes of learning, as it may take effective planning in advance for the best success. On the screen now, you'll see the learning outcomes for the session. Please take the opportunity to consider your responses to any questions posed during this CPD session, and it may be useful to have a document or some paper to hand to make notes of anything useful or interesting gained from accessing the recording to use in your future practice. So let's get started. Please make a note, mentally, electronically or physically, of the meaning of the term holistic assessment. We'll have a short pause here to allow you to do this, and if more time is needed at any point, please pause the recording to allow you make notes in terms of your answers. Okay, let's explore some definitions. The first is from a dictionary and is very generic, about treating a situation as a whole and not its individual parts. And the second was generated by AI and relates directly to assessing learner evidence and their overall performance. As many assessment tasks do not stand in isolation and are reliant on other skills, knowledge and competencies, this suggests that using a holistic approach gives a clearer overall picture of the learner's knowledge and understanding, which is the first great benefit of using a holistic approach to assessment. Which leads us nicely into exploration of the principles and benefits of using this type of approach. But before we share our ideas, please pause again here to consider what you feel are the principles and benefits of using a holistic assessment approach. Okay, please compare your thoughts and ideas to what we'll now share. Our first point relates to what it considers. A holistic approach allows for consideration of the multiple dimensions of a learner's abilities, including cognitive, emotional, social, and physical aspects. This allows for a more textured understanding of the learner's progress by gathering information from a range of sources, and this multifaceted assessment approach allows educators to summarise their overall performance, providing a fairer representation of their abilities. And when the assessment process is centred around the learner's needs, interests and experiences, it helps to promote engagement and motivation. It also helps assessors to evaluate learner readiness and enthusiasm to participate in learning, making the process more successful. Using a range of assessment methods is more inclusive. Learners respond differently to different assessment methods, so increasing the type of method used will create a more reliable assessment of each learner's knowledge and competencies. Diverse assessment methods ensure that assessments correspond to the related learning outcomes, providing a more accurate depiction of the learner's skills and abilities. Another vital principle relates to context. Holistic approaches recognise the importance of context in learning, including the cultural, social and environmental factors that can influence a learner's performance. And the final 2 points here reiterate the value of recognition of the wider range of skills, knowledge and competencies a holistic approach can assess and acknowledge for the learners. This also allows for the learner's progress or final level being assessed as a whole, making links between the required transferable knowledge and capabilities in the subject area or industry in which the qualification is based. So to conclude, holistic assessment is essential for fostering a well-rounded educational experience. By considering the whole learner, we can better support individual growth and development. This approach not only assesses the effectiveness and efficiency of the learning that has taken place, it also provides the opportunity for more comprehensive feedback to the learners, helping them to understand their performance and take the necessary actions to improve further. We'll now explore what this looks like in practice with a couple of vocational examples. Please consider how you already use a holistic approach to your assessment activities and evaluate how the examples could be used in your specialist area. So the first example relates to GCSE sport. I'd like to ask you to consider how holistic assessment could relate to this subject area. Please pause and make a note here of your initial thoughts. Thanks for doing that. How a holistic approach can be applied to this context is shown on the screen now, not focusing on separate skills, but how a range of factors can be brought together in assessment of the learner. And also how the assessor applies the principles of holistic assessment in the context of the subject, with a breakdown of the component parts also shown on the screen now. Please take a moment to pause again and review how your initial thoughts apply to the example given. Moving on to our second example, a learner being assessed on a catering course. Again, please take a moment to consider how the principles of holistic assessment could apply to this context. And again, thanks for taking some time to use your knowledge and experience to make the topic come to life. And the explanation is similar to the previous example, with the focus being on the overall performance rather than focusing on individual skills and competencies. And the explanation is also similar to the previous example. And this is reiterated with the added points about everything coming together for success. And finally, the breakdown of the knowledge and abilities needed for overall accomplishment. We're going to move into the final part of this CPD session now by exploring what best practices when applying a holistic approach. Please pause again to consider what you already know about best practice and make a note to allow you to compare your thoughts to the points we'll make. So the first is from the University of Cambridge. This reinforces that good practice in terms of holistic assessment is the focus on how a range of assessment methods would fit together to evaluate and shape learning. This would suggest that adopting this approach for formative assessments activities too would be beneficial. The second quote brings in the benefits to the learners and that the process makes it more valuable and effective for both the learners and assessors. And the third acknowledges the opportunity to apply this approach to effectively assess the range of skills and competencies learners have, whilst also highlighting that holistic assessment needs to be task and construct based, so not useful for assessing knowledge alone. So in practice, what does this mean? The first point follows nicely on from what the theory has told us, that it's important to have realistic and authentic assessment tasks which allow learners to show a range of skills and knowledge naturally. Authentic contexts give a more accurate picture of overall competence. And also consider the whole process, what planning, preparing, problem solving and adaptability competencies do the learners need to demonstrate to be successful. Also to remember to capture evidence to underpin the assessment decisions made. Also remember to use the appropriate descriptors and share these in advance with the learner. And involving the learner at all stages is always best practice, as it will support independence and ownership of the assessment outcomes. Collect evidence from a range of sources. There's a list of examples on this slide, but this is not exhaustive, and the evidence type must be appropriate for the skill or competency shown. And then finally, consistency and objectivity should underpin all assessment activities. So we've reached the end of this on-demand session, and we'd like to thank you for taking the time to explore the topic of holistic assessment with us. We do value your feedback, and on the screen now there's a QR code to scan to provide some feedback on this recording. We'd appreciate if you could spend an additional minute or two to let us know how useful the session was and how we could improve it further. Thank you.